Well, hello. Okay, so last week we kind of touched on some of the things that KVCore can do, and one of the ways that I use KVCore is as a buyer tour. So I'm going to share my screen. And do you guys have the team version, or do you have the individual versions?
Team.
Team. Okay, so your dashboard might look a little bit different than mine. So to use the buyer tour, I go over here to all marketing and I go down to core present. From core present, you get options on doing a listing presentation, doing a buyer tour, and it'll show up on my screen here shortly because we're getting ready to win. Love that this is taking this amount of time. Okay, so the buyer tour is what I've often done for when I'm doing showings, and it really gives a nice presentation. So if you wanted to start a buyer tour, you'll have your MLS numbers handy, and I've pulled some that I'm going to just enter here. Um, and if you notice, it's mapping them. So it'll map them, and you can change the order that they are. So if you want to start from the north and head south, or if you want to start from the south and head north, you can do that. So I think I'm going to make this one that's number 4. I think I'm going to move it to number 2. And then that resorted the numbers. So we're going from south to north so that we're not zigzagging all across town. So those are the properties that we're going to look at. And then it should provide that. I don't know why it's not doing that. Oh, enter client name. If you have a client already set up in your KVCore database for your CRM, you can start by putting in their name. So I'm going to use me for the example. So now it's going to put this buyer tour in their profile, and you'll be able to view it in the future, that this whole report will show up in their buyer tour. I mean, in their profile. You can change the look and layout. It's not too much different, but I'm not going to go into that today. So here is the buyer tour. It's also interactive. You can add slides to this, which I clicked on add slide. You can do testimonials if you've built that into your KVCore. For buyers, you may want to put this about pricing misconceptions, what factors influence pricing, home buying process, and what do buyers want from their agents. So you can look at the slides and see what applies to this particular buyer, okay? And so you can add a slide if you want to. Then it goes into detail about the properties. It's interactive where you can click on the property. This is going so slow. It's supposed to pull up the property with the photos and everything for you to view. So you can do that through this screen. And then at the end, it prints this, when you print it out for your client for the day of the tour, it'll print this sheet where they can rate each property on how interested they are, from not interested to make an offer. So it'll have the details of each property with the address, and then at the end they can complete this. So this is, let's see what this presentation looks like so you can see what they would actually get. I'm so sorry this is slow. So it'll say who the tour is prepared for, and if you upload your logo, it'll put your personal logo in there, or whatever logo, the team logo, however you have it designed. It gives the map of all the properties. We've got 5 scheduled to tour they just so happen to be new listings, so only one day on market. It gives the average square footage and the average bedroom and bath count, average sales price, and what day it was prepared. Then you can go, I don't know why it's not doing it. There we go. So photos of the home are here. If there's more photos, you'll see all of the photos there. Information about the listing and more information there about each listing you can look at. And then the final sheet. So you can email it to your client ahead of time. You can download it and print it. You can send it to them in a link if that works better, like maybe for their phone. And once you've added the client up here, then it automatically puts it in their KVCore portal. You can add a video link, whatever. So you've got all your options there. So this is something that I've used for buyers, and it is very impressive. The sheet that they get for each, let's look at it. So when you go to print it out, it gives you a cover sheet, the map, and then these don't have photos, so they don't look as good. But it gives you the map. It gives all the information about the property, the list price. It gives other information, special features, and listing information. And it grabs a couple of photos to help trigger their memory and a space to write notes. So I really like these flyers for showing property. Any questions about this part of it?
Can I just say, I remember the last time I saw Rick do one of these, and he was doing it off the MLS, not off KVCore, and going in and manually selecting all of them, and then he'd print up a huge thing, and then he'd spread the papers all over the dining room table, and then organize them in order, like doing all of this manually versus clicking a button and having something do it for you. This is freaking amazing.
Yeah, and drag and drop where whatever order you want them in, however you want to do them. So I find it very, very helpful. I think it's a beautiful presentation. Not a lot of people use it, but I do, and I love it. And I know my clients are always impressed. And I put it on a clipboard. I give them a pen, and they walk through, and they're with the clipboard. And I've never had people take more notes than when I provide this presentation on a showing.
It's so professional. So one of the things that also that I'm thinking of just as I saw it is that what happens afterwards, right? So particularly like Anthony, if you're working Zillow Flex leads, and you're working to create the relationship and warm up the relationship and build value, is that if that goes home with them, and you're branded all over it and it's like automatically going to stay with them as a piece of value. And let's say they decide not to buy right now and something happens and they go dark for like 3 months, but they keep, they keep that, right? And then they see it sitting on their desk or in their, on the kitchen counter or wherever they left it. It just, I feel like it's such a value piece to anchor the agent. It's incredible.
Well, and a lot of times too, buyers will say, "Well, let me talk to my spouse and see what we want to do." We've seen a lot of houses, and it's true. It's a lot to take in if you're seeing more than 3 houses in a day. So give them that opportunity to discuss amongst themselves. But also, this is another touch point. Hey, did you guys see the last page of the buyer package that I gave you? It had a place where you could rate each property. Have you had a chance to do that? So it's a reason to touch and follow up. So I like that it provides that opportunity for more conversation that maybe you wouldn't have had if this specific piece of paper wasn't in there or something like it.
Well, and also, even if they don't purchase something there, you can follow up with them to say, hey, we've had some changes in the market of the properties that we saw. They got multiple listings or they got multiple offers, or it's in it over asking so they can reevaluate what they're doing as well.
Yeah, or you can, I'm going to try to pull it up in my particular, you can see it in my client portal. if you wanted to follow up and maybe you knew they liked the house on Gibson or whatever the street name is, and you knew that they really liked that house, you can watch that house or go back and go, man, what was that address on Gibson again, or whatever. You can go back and look at the report that was created. See here, it has the buyer tour was created. It also shows up in your core present section over here, buyer tour and the date. So all the activity I've done for this person, me, is all recorded right here. You can pull it up again and go, oh, that one on Gibson, and then look up the property and say, hey, you know what? It looks like Gibson went pending and I knew you guys really, really wanted that. Did you ever get your pre-approval taken care of? Or did you ever, and come up with other reasons to follow up with them? So I really, really, really love everything in KVCore. So that was a cool thing to do for your buyers. Now, I've also used KVCore for doing my CMAs, which is this win the listing. And you can price a property here. I almost clicked Alaska. Confirm that this information is correct, which for this one it is. And then it'll automatically pull up comps because it's got your IDX feed, right? So it'll automatically pull in comps. It does a default of a 1 mile radius. I usually try to narrow it down to a 1/4 mile, but if within that 1/4 mile there isn't enough activity or enough to compare to, the ones that are fully that color are the ones that they're going to use. The ones that have this grayed out area are not within the comp criteria. So you could look at bedroom count. This is only pulling 4-bedroom homes. So if you wanted to also include 3-bedroom homes, and maybe you wanted to, this is doing 2,000 square feet to 3,000 square feet. So it's doing a 20% over under on square footage. You could narrow it or you could widen it, but I know I wouldn't go more than 20% for comps. Anyway, you can adjust these things or even enter manually if you know of a specific property that would be a great comp and maybe it was a FSBO. Maybe you wouldn't have the MLS ID, but you could definitely manually enter in that information. And then you build your CMA. And it's going to automatically pull up the comps within that radius. It looks like there's 2 active matches. And this is one of my favorite things of this presentation is this price line, because it shows you kind of in order where, like, this is a sold property, this is a sold property, and this is an active property. And these are the averages. What I also like to do is I like to go in and put in an estimate. Like, for example, what does Zillow say their house is worth? And let's say it's, you add that. Why isn't it adding? There's something else I need to do for this and I don't know what it is, but you can add in Zillow and Zillow will have a little tab like this that will give that value and put it accordingly on the price line. Here's something you can do and say, I wonder how this active listing compares to this sold listing. You click on it and you can see all the photos right then and there because it's pulling from your IDX feed. So you can look and see and compare, yeah, this one's probably priced about right or whatever. Okay. So you can, when I'm doing this part, I usually enter in estimates. I usually enter in Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, and Homes.com values because that's where the consumer is looking and that's the number that they're seeing. And so I want them to see how those numbers fall in alignment with what's actually happening on the market, because sometimes those numbers are only algorithm based. And I know, for example, my aunt's home in Idaho, I had to rely on Zillow because I don't belong to their MLS. And when we first started, I knew her home was valued at about 405. And then my mom listed it for 499, which, you have a realtor for a daughter. Why didn't you ask me? But that's a whole nother talk show. But it was at 405 And when it went up, when she listed it at $499, within a week, Zillow had it valued at $485. So because that active listing came on the market, it changed that algorithm and those numbers. And that's what's happening to all the houses on Zillow, is especially if they're active, it's taking whatever you're listing it at, not necessarily what it's sold at. So it's good to show the consumer where those public real estate sites land in relation to what is actually happening on the MLS. So I love this price line for that. You can also enter in your own price. Say, for example, you use RPR and it gives you a range based on maybe some adjustments you've made because of amenities or upgrades. You can enter in your own price, put in a minimum, like let's say 625 to 650. And you can add it, and then it brands it with your name and gives that range, and it puts it appropriately on the price line. So you can kind of, in some ways, not manipulate this, but you can add to it with the public real estate sites to give some perspective. Because, you know, buyers swear by Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com. And then you create your presentation. And I do this for CMAs when I'm getting ready to list a house too. And again, it comes with a great visual presentation. I will, at minimum, pull Google Earth for this address. Ideally, I like to drive by the address and take my own photo of the front. If I don't have the opportunity to do that, I'll pull it from Google Earth and just have the aerial view of the house with the little red pin and the address above it. And I put that image here. This is where there's a bunch of slides on selling you as the agent. And again, go into add slide. I definitely encourage you to put some testimonials in your presentation. If it's maybe somebody, this is the first home that they ever purchased and they're selling it, maybe you put the home selling process in there for them. This is an iBuyer sheet, and maybe it's a distressed property and maybe a cash offer is going to be their best bet because they don't want to do anything to it. Then you would include that. But if that's not really applicable, if it's like a cream puff property, I don't know that I would include that. So you'll pick these slides based on your experience with that client, and that all comes with that rapport building piece. So this gives the value of an agent. It's got my testimonials. Then we get into the what's my home worth. It gives the map and the averages. It provides this price line. And then it also gives pricing misconceptions from those same sites. Again, you can add more slides to this portion. Then the market analysis, it can give the market overview of that area. 16 days on market average sales price. Information on why pricing your home correctly is important. This is good, especially if a seller wants to price it high, like my mom at $499 and Zillow says $400. Like, it's going to sit on the market, and it did for 10 months with nothing. So and you can use that example if you want to share it. Just say, hey, a business partner of mine did this and it happened, you know, but this is why it's important, and you can give this information. Marketing and buyer activity. This is kind of a heat map on what's happening in the area. This is the subject property and what's going on in the area. This is my all-time favorite marketing piece for a listing presentation because it's called the pitch sheet. And it has how many people are engaging online on all eXp Realty sites. So all of our agent sites and the eXp Realty site. So over 4 million people are engaging on all of our sites. 6,205 are near that property address. So over 6,200 people are looking at eXp Realty sites near this property address. And over 1,400 people are looking at that price point. Specifically, there are 22 buyers that are super targeted to this particular home. And once that seller gives me the go-ahead and the green light to list their property, I'm gonna, with a click of a mouse, email all 22 of those buyers, and they're gonna get the notice that this property is listed. And it literally is a click to email the people, and then another click to confirm. And you don't ever get their email addresses, but they do get the notification. Now, these 22 buyers could be people in your own database. They could be people in Anthony's database. They could be people in anybody else's database. They may not necessarily become your client, but they're still giving you the exposure to the property. Some properties have 1,200 people at the bottom of this funnel. So it can be very, very lucrative. And it gives you kind of examples of who's looking based on their search criteria. So this is a really neat presentation to give to your seller when you're talking to them about your marketing. It provides slides about marketing, social boosts, and all that kind of stuff. And then what are the next steps? Now, this comes in a web version and it comes in a PDF version. If you send it to them in a web version, for example, in an email or with a link to look at it online, it will be interactive. They can click on every house and look at every picture. And that to me is ideal. Not only will I give them a printed one that I'm going to drop off, but I'm also going to email it to them in case that's easier for them based on whatever their personality type is. Maybe maybe the wife likes it in print and the husband wants it online, or maybe he's, you know, in another state for business and they want to look at it together and they have that opportunity. Same thing here, you add the client's name to it and it'll automatically put that report in that client's profile. I kind of went fast, but there's also another really cool thing. You can add a net sheet. So you could put, let's say 625, 630, and 640. You put in whatever their payoff is. Then you put commission and let's say 10,000. You put in a selling office commission. I don't know why I did it that way. And what it's going to do is it's going to take all these fees and it's going to create a net sheet. Whoops. Let's preview it. So it's going to give a side-by-side comparison based on what sale price, maybe from that range that you enter, because maybe you got that range from RPR. It's going to do what the payoff is for their mortgage, compensation to each side, escrow and title fees, any transfer taxes, any HOA fees, home warranty, inspections, and closing costs. And it's going to give them their net proceeds. So for the 625, their net proceeds are going to be about 356 based on what's here. For 630, this is what their net proceeds are going to be. So it gives them that comparison of their net proceeds, which I think is also very, very cool. You don't have to do 3 separate ones. You can do it in a comparison type format like this. So it shows them the pros and cons from listing between 625 to 640. Any questions? I went kind of fast.
No, it's pretty cool. And you can add slides into that, correct? If you wanted to.
Yeah, where there's the little tab underneath each little section that says add slide. They've got slides that are in there that are appropriate for selling. Most of them are for the selling side.
Right. Okay, perfect. Great. Thanks, Debbie.
Mm-hmm. It does include other ones that aren't in that little add slide category. So I wanted to like, I guess these all were interesting. Okay, so this is what it would look like if they were looking at it online. And if they want to get started, I believe this sends an email to you that they want to get started. I think they fill out some kind of form and it sends you an email, or if they need more time, if they do interact this way. Okay, so I went over the pitch sheet, I went over the buyer tour and the CMA in Core Present. Any questions with the KVCore side of things?
I'm kind of excited to dig in there, though. That looks really cool.
It's fun to play around with. I do want to say on just a quick TC tip of the day, if you've ever got any forms, because this is coming up a lot for me with some of my other agents that I'm TCing for, if you've ever got any questions about any kind of forms or how to respond to anything, I am more than happy to look over any documents that you need me to. I'm happy to help you write whatever you need me to help you write. I'm dealing with a situation where this agent literally has no clue what she's doing. And I don't mean to say that in a negative stance, but this poor lady, we were supposed to close escrow yesterday, and that's when she had her pest inspection. I'm like, you've removed the inspection contingency a week ago, which was late. You've removed the inspection contingency, and we were supposed to close yesterday, and you had the pest inspection yesterday. So dealing with people that maybe don't have the awesome training and guidance that we do here. Sometimes it's difficult and sometimes emotions are high. And I know my agent was like, I'm so glad you wrote that email, because I sent it to her and I said, is this okay to send? And she said, yes, thank you, because I would have been like a third grader throwing a tantrum. Thank you for calming it down for me. So if you need that good cop, bad cop thing, I'm happy to do that on your behalf.
Thank you, Deb. That's awesome.
Very cool. Thank you, Debbie. Great training. Laura, will you go ahead and stop the recording, please? Thank you. In the